I mean, Yelly Hayes has been a monster in any hero that he brings to the table, right? And is that actually, it's going to match up. That's why I'm so excited to see how that matchup with Kill VJ goes. But then Donut, too, in the gold lane is going to be quite scary for them to deal with. But of course, across from him is the Filipino Savage.
Yeah, that flavoring thing really put me on the Yelly glaze. It's a shame they don't take nicknames from here. That would have been great for
Yelly
for that.
Donut.
Yelly, Anyway, back on the field, we do have that Julian. Like I said, highly contested between these two teams. Got picked up by Omega. Now, what does that mean for NXPE?
I mean, you can see that we already brought this up before even the draft started. Omega really revolves around this. They prioritized it before the Matrix, and they'll still have the chance to get the Matrix now. Although that might not be the best choice here because it's Paquito and Eve. Two heroes are great versus the Matrix. Claude looks good for Omega, as well as the Esmeralda that they always counter versus these Paquitos. I think Esmeralda and Claude just look so good for Omega.
That's true. I really would like to see more of that. Claude, obviously we didn't see it work well in series number 1, but do you think it will have some impact here if ever get picked up here for series number 2?
I think Claude is, you know, he's in that top list. There it is, right? So it's locked in here. Now we can get into this point, right? Claude is just, I mean, yes, the Beatrix slipped through the cracks here, but, you know, as you mentioned, Wolf, it's not the best thing to pick here against the Paquito, the Eve, right? And that's the thing. Claude, I know it didn't work the best in the previous series, but still, Claude is one of those heroes that just, you can be pretty safe in your own. You don't have to have, you know, so much attention on your lane that help you need. You can farm up. You're usually running the Avarice, you know, so you help contribute to that gold and everything else. And then later on, at one point, you're just a big threat with the Blazing Duet.
Yeah, that's right. Here's the thing, right? The next play are considering that this Julian can be a flex pick in the mid lane. That's why they banned the Balmond. They have not banned out the Ling just yet, and we know that Omega really likes that hero. And that's really what you get out of taking this Julian as the first pick. It's such an open pick and such a strong pick as well. Now next play will have to ban out that Ling, and for Omega, they can just throw in a curveball, wait for the 4th pick, then answer accordingly. They can put the Julian in the jungle or into the mid lane if they do want. Now with this carry ban, might even consider the Beatrix or the Irithel, as we saw in the previous series that Irithel can work wonders versus the Claude in the early to the mid stages.
That's correct. And also work very well, considering that the AoE of NXPE is a little low right now. That Irithel, we saw Nets play it like a boss, and there it goes. That's the Romancer though, so lots of actual gold heroes open here for NXPE.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they, what they want to pick here exactly, but, you know, already for their 4th pick, they're going to take the Bruno.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a thing now.
It's going to be a thing.
I wasn't expecting this, but they take the Bruno. And look at this little trivia here. Ranking number 2 in KDA average during Season 9 achieved a 6.75. That is Mycophobia right there.
Pretty high for a homer.
That's true. So right now, I mean, NXP didn't need to pick the gold laner, but they did anyway. So what does that tell you, right? There you go, Smart Omega Empress. He is the coach of that
team. There it is. Smart Omega Empress, the female team of Smart Omega. There are considerations here. You can pick up another mage for Omega to kind of clear out and stop this Bruno as well. It seems like a Sicilian perhaps, or a Kagura from their side. Also trumps the Paquito. And then you're going to look for Roamer. Maybe snatch your Rafaela now for the Atlas. So instead they Cho and Baxia. Okay.
Oh, a single target priority here. In terms of, wait.
Diggy is available for next play. Could be good to protect their Bruno. Same in the same vein, you have the Rafaela. And man, I will not be surprised if next play pulls out an Estes here.
I think, I was going to say, I think
There's
Rafaela
the Rafaela.
Yeah.
All right, very mobile lineup here for NXPE so far. And for Omega, quite heavy on the damage output that they have. Once again, we're sticking to that, right?
Yep.
They love to fight for that mid-early game.
Yep.
I think what's going to be hard here for Omega, though, because of this last pick specifically from NXPE, is catching them up. I mean, they're going to be so fast. They're going to be having so much speed coming out with that speed boost from the Rafaela. I think it's going to work really well. So we'll see if they're actually able to catch them. They do have the tools that if they do catch them out of place, they should be able to set things up.
I mean, there is no doubt about it. I mean, tempo is the one thing that these two teams have in common, and they're gonna have to fight it. They're gonna have to go tooth and nail early on, first minute on. Expect that from this game. We are loading up, ladies and gents, into game number 1 between NXPE EVOS versus Smart Omega, and I gotta tell you, this is a very highly anticipated matchup for a lot of reasons.
You see this lineup from both teams. You can see a lot of like sport, like track and field from both teams. You can see the Masha with the sprint. Obviously, is gonna be running around later on. You see this drifting, this Tokyo drifting Basha.
Oh yeah, you
going
know
up against the Bruno and the Paquito with the speed boost of the Rafaela. There's gonna be a lot of speed between these two teams later on.
I am speed. That's gonna be the name of the game, apparently. With all these sprints obviously present on the map, with the speed ups that you can expect from Rafaela, I expect a lot of blood to be shed here in the early stages of the game.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the answer, right? How do you catch all the speed boosts from NXPE? You take the sprints, and now, you know, early already, this is the focus here on Donut. So, yeah, he burned the sprint early on.
All right, that's it. That's what they need. And after someone burns that, you know that a follow-up is very close by. That's risky for these lanes.
Typically, you go Flicker or Inspire on the Bruno, and
that's what he did. He flickered in. Miko
exactly.
We didn't have to see it on the camera because Wolf called it. You're gonna see Miko flicker in there, and that's what happened.
And as usual, again, multiple lanes again, just trying and waiting for that opportunity. Very aggressive roam here from Miko, again doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying, right? Miko taking the brunt of the damage here, but actually going to re-engage because here comes Ryzen, almost to level 4. He hits it now. Crashed it right into Miko Phobia. Able to get a kill here on that roam from NXPE EVOS, but the return once again, NXPE EVOS. It's going to be a nice pickup here once again for Smart Omega.
The timing coming up from Omega was so good, and they planned it out so well. I mean, Ryzen knows exactly when he will hit level 4. He already rolled before his ultimate was up, and he was able to get a kill afterwards. And this is really bad from NXPE EVOS. This is the first time that I'll see a Bruno left on his own. Typically, because you want to take advantage of the early game spike.
Yeah.
You want to really double up on the Bruno, and this time they're leaving him in the bottom lane to fight for his own.
Oh, Miko taking, again, quite a bit of damage from James this time around. So let's see, right? This Turtle, first one in the game, is now up here. They're both in position, but Ryzen going to go ahead and start this one up. It looks like Smart Omega just has a clear path for the first Turtle of the game.
There is a small, advantage of keeping the Rafaela close by, and this is exactly it, right? Yeah. So that's what they did. They kept Yelly Haze alive. He doesn't even have level 4 yet. So right now, it's actually still very risky for NXPE to do anything at this point.
No activation just yet from NXPE EVOS. As we saw, H2 still yet to participate in the team fights. He's been babysat in the jungle. This is the reason why NXPE EVOS didn't have that first help onto the gold lane, because Miko Phobia actually had to help H2 for, I honestly don't know why they decided to go that way, but because of that, now we are seeing Donut struggle. Bruno with 1 death in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Doesn't sound very good. Yeah.
It's a cardinal sin, honestly.
And especially the one that you have on the other side is a big AoE marksman, just like a Claude, man.
That's right.
So I really see what you mean there.
Yep.
Overall, NXPE seem to be just like absorbing everything that Omega's throwing right now.
I think the saving grace, though, for NXPE here is just, once again, H2O really hasn't done anything just yet, but as he's keeping up at the farm, they should be able to contest the next objectives that come up. That's what you're expecting from them, especially having Miko Phobia here on this Rafaela. But the thing is, like you guys mentioned, there's so much attention being put here on Donut. If Donut just has a terrible early game, he's pretty much offline for the majority of the game, and now here we go, but the flicker gonna cancel out that setup coming out from Miko.
Yeah, that's the foresight that you usually have when you have a Cho nearby. You want to advance that flicker. Good thing that he did that and had good results. But again, that could have gone so bad.
It's funny because even now, you know, just having Miko and Miko Phobia crossed each other, and when they're focusing on each other because they're both the roams, it's like, okay, Miko kicks Miko, here we go.
It's not easy, I'm sure.
It's almost like a Valentina, you know, when you have the Way of the Dragon and the Valentina with the Way of the Dragon. But now they're going to go ahead and start up this Turtle, like I mentioned. They're in a much better position now to actually contest this one. Second Turtle of the game as Ryzen now joining the party, but also on the top side, Renzio going to go ahead and push that lane in.
Oh, man.
See if NXPE actually wants to give this one up or just completely not even taking a chance.
Oh, wow. They really did not want to give it up, but H2O, again, not really that confident yet to go in all on his own. While the rest of Omega, they are capitalizing.
Okay, so Renzio's really low HP up there. I don't know if they're going to get a kill. He does get the turret. That's what was confusing, right?
Yep.
It looks like NXPE wants to actually contest that turtle, take it, because they know they're trading an objective topside, but still they hesitate and nothing results out of that.
Yeah.
And now, here comes a smart Omega looking to crash down to the bottom side. Donut's going to be the focus. Blazing Duet comes out, goes back here. They take quite a bit of damage, and they're going to lose another turret.
Oh my goodness, Omega just playing the map so well. Fortunately for next play, they will conserve the tower for a little bit longer, but so far Omega's winning the map. Pretty sure that James the lucky break in there as he went for the Masha, but all things considered, this is just Omega winning the early stages, which is bad for next play. We know their composition is not tailored towards the late game, and Omega winning the early to the mid game is already like checking a lot of taking a lot of check boxes for their win condition.
And that's it. That's one of the keys to victory, right?
Yeah.
Set up for your mid-game tempo. And in that regard, Omega definitely doing all of the checking. Now, right now, NXPE, you mentioned it, they did have a lucky break on top side.
Yep.
They got some of that goal and some of that flow that, you know, Omega needs to answer. So that's a lucky break by James, but can they actually rely on luck to win this? We'll have to find out.
Well, here's the focus on the bottom side. They spot out Renzio, going to take some damage, has plenty of health bars though. Meanwhile, the rest of Smart Omega making their way down to the bottom side as well. You can see the struggle here, right, that we're seeing of an NXPE trying to make decisions like, do we commit to this? Do we back off here? And that's kind of the story right now. They are still patiently waiting here on the bottom side. Renzio going to go in, win that thunderclap, but hold on, H2O. Can they push this one in? They're still holding on to a minion. Kill VJ, getting the knock up. Yelly Hayes, here comes Miko as well. Might be looking for a kick on Yelly Hayes. Kill VJ goes down here. And now under the turret they go. It's one down for Smart Omega.
Kel VJ defended that so well. They cleared the minion waves, although he died in the end. But I honestly feel like Omega already got what they wanted in there. Able to defend the turret for quite a longer time. They were able to get the third turtle as well, only just sacrificing one hero, and that's just a mid laner, and they managed to win the economic battle once again. Next by Evos, they have to find an opening. So far, they have utilized H2 just once in this game. I want to see them use this arena more.
Yeah, we're even on the turrets, but basically the economy is being won by Omega. They pulled so many people on that bottom siege.
Yep.
They had 4 people on standby. Do we go? Do we go? No. KLVJ was clearing. Ryzen was clearing as well. It was a very, Renzio was clearing as well.
Yep.
Good defense. You bought so much time in the end. They were forcing a fight just like this one.
Yeah, real world manipulation coming down. There's gonna be the stun. Kill VJ falls again with the return with the blazing duet. Looking for Micophobia and another falls. Make it 2 as that's a huge blazing duet followed by the way of the dragon. They grab another kill here as 3 fall for NXPE. James looking for Kelra. Can't get him as Kelra's still alive. And now in the mid side, James getting taken down. The killing spree for Ryzen.
Just when you thought you had a chance to go back, you get pulled right in.
I think they still want more, but they can definitely push this turret now. Next play, Evos had a nice snag in there, but after the use of the real-world manipulation, there's just nothing afterwards. Ryzen and Kara went together as 2, and what a kick coming out from Miko as well in that game. They didn't have a way to cancel out Yelly Hayes' ultimate afterwards, but they conceded the first initial seconds of the fight, and then they fought afterwards. It's the sustained battle that won them afterwards. Because we know that Kelra, his damage up was way too good at this point. I actually was surprised that he was able to get off Donut after maybe the Dexter attack. Because when you swap with Dexter with the BMI, the Dexter can still attack, and I think he found the last attack of the Donut.
Yeah, and ladies and gents, this is why they call Omega the Venom. Right there!
Grabbing the Lord plus a kill here with the way of the dragon. Miko on fire for Smart Omega, looking for the setups time after time.
Yeah, that's exactly why. They're personifying the moments there you thought you're secure. you know, it's like they just bite you out of nowhere. And it is so venomous. It is so potent. It's so potent, man, that it's so difficult to get rid of. You saw it almost a wipeout.
Yep.
I mean, you know, this is the thing, right? When you look at NXPE's lineup, again, the signs were there in the early game, like first turtle, second turtle. They don't have anybody to really go, like press the go button for them, right? Yes, they have Mycophobia. They've got the Holy Baptism if they want to go for it. If they ever get a chance, they can set up with a real-world manipulation. But if you look across the board, Smart Omega has way more options in terms of starting fights, starting skirmishes.
Yeah, I think that the next play will now have to think about duties. Yellow Haze, for example, has to hold his ultimate up until the point that they find Kelra, because Kelra can now dive. You have the Wind of Nature now for this Claw. This means that there will be no 1v1 between Donut as well as the Claude, or not from Kelra. So Yellow Haze has to hold out. And that's a big problem though, because you also have to think about the minion wave when going up against Omega. So honestly, Yellow Haze, he's gonna be having to pull out all the stops, and it's gonna be very difficult for him because he now holds the most important ultimate to win against Omega.
And the real-world manipulation is their main engage tool. It's their main clear tool as well.
Yeah.
And the problem is when it's popped, it's so difficult for them to actually win the coming fights without it.
I agree.
So I get what you mean, man. That's gonna be a big test of, you know, veterancy. How good are you, Yellow Haze? How good are you at holding the trigger, knowing when to pull it?
Right now, the way the Dragon goes into the James, but they have to flicker out here to stay alive. So right now, we're just seeing them clearing these minions, doing the best here. We can't actually expect Smart Omega to just be undisciplined, trying to punch one in as much as they're crowding around these last turrets of the base. But they can just pretty much buy time, wait 40 seconds for the Lord to come up, and then actually fight that face-to-face because they're 8K gold ahead of NXPE.
I didn't even notice that. It's a big problem for some of the squishy damage dealers coming out from next play. You can see Donut as well as Yellow Haze. Even when they're behind like this, they can still pack up a punch, but they are also very squishy. So the problem here is Kelra is going to be an issue later on, as well as Renzio. We have not talked about this guy, but he builds up the tanky items, gets into that zone where he is almost unkillable and he can dive into the backlines. He's also going to be a problem. So it's gonna be, it's also, I think the XP also needs James to step up, to stop that mashup in the late game.
To be fair, I mean, next play has a lot of checkboxes to check if they want to make a comeback alive. So that's only one small piece of the puzzle. The other question is, how are they gonna deal with these waves? James can't be absent from the fight, right? It's so important for next play Evos because he's also the big AoE damage from NXPE.
That is very
So a lot of questions here being raised by NXPE. At the same time, Omega looking really chill so far, I have to say.
Oh, loving this blade armor pickup coming out from Renzio. It's really, it is really definitely shutting down Donut, who is yet to rank up. In fact, he's only got 2 items at this point. And the early game spike coming out from the Bruno, you will not be able to feel it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're relying a lot of the damage coming out from Donut, but look at all the tank items from 3 members of Smart Omega. You know, you're not, it's just going to tickle, basically. You're not going to feel any of that burst. And here comes the conceal play. Miko now looking for a way the Dragon. The turret does go down to the bottom side. They've got to handle that. Meanwhile, Mega's going to go ahead and focus on the mid turret as they're going to look to crack open the base here. Lord finally goes down. Another wave pushing on the top side. Smart Omega going to work on this one. Miko still holding on to the way of the Dragon. Can they punch this one in here? NXPE on full defense mode for now.
Yeah, basically like a boa constrictor slowly wrapping around its target.
That's going to be a bad mistake there as Kelra falls early on in the fight. Miko the next target to go down. James stepping up here, grabbing a kill for himself. NXPE turning it around.
Finally, some use of this sword.
Yeah.
At least giving them some breathing room here. That's 2 down from Omega.
Yeah, whenever there's a team that's about 10K, 9K behind, they always say they need a miracle. And next play Evos,
they found
one. Miko, with a double K, didn't find the right opening
Yeah.
And they were punished duly because of this. When Kelra went in for the aggressive BMI, the rest of the NXPE are in there.
Oh, they're still punching this in. Donut takes quite a bit of damage. They get the tier 2 tournament in. Rezio looking for the kill, and he grabs it. Donut falls. You can't outrun that Masha with the sprint. So right now, he's going to be going 2 versus, what is this? 2 versus 4 here in the jungle. Smart Omega looking to end the game here. They know Donut's down. Ryzen forcing them back into the base here. We've got 2 lanes pushing up into the base here. Once again, can NXPE Evos defend against this one? Miko looking for an angle, and in the backside, gonna find Yelly Haze, but it's not good enough. And now the real world manipulation comes down to clear the minions again. Ryzen taking the brunt of the damage. Kelra looking for the stacks. There's the knock up. They're gonna disengage. James now on the chase here with the 2. And here we go. Smart Omega recalls from here.
Beautiful disengagement. Chain there, enhanced chain from Omega. Really set up a tempo for the disengage, but now it's NXPE's time to maybe make something happen.
Kill VJ landing the greatest knock-up in this game as he was able to defend his teammates. But my god, this Mobile Legends game is turning to be a marathon. Between 2 teams, they're just chasing each other. And whoever can't outrun another will just lose this game.
Just like a viper grasping its prey and a warrior getting their sword ready to strike. It looks like NXPE wants to do something here, but again, the tankiness is just not there yet.
Yeah, they've got to be careful here. Ryzen going to give the go signal. Here comes Miko looking for the way of the dragon. He finds it this time. He gets the target. Miko Phobia still has immortality, but look at Rezio just unleashing on the backside. Donut can't run from this as he is still able to survive. But 2 members of NXPE fall, make it 3 as Kill VJ gets the revenge here. And now Smart Omega once again looking to push it in for this game 1. Donut and James left alive. We gotta respect that damage here coming out from Donut. Can they do it? Working on the waves right now, looking for the setup once again. Miko not able to find it just yet. James trying to do everything he can. Winter Trache comes out from Kill VJ, and they're doing it! Donut and James
He gets it.
successfully defend while James gets a kill himself.
No way he did that. No way. And right now, they are roaring and repping here as NXPE find small stuff to take advantage of.
The reason why Omega wasn't able to end that game was because James have found Kelra and was able to take him down. A big deal breaker here for NXPE Evos as now they have the advantage towards the Lord.
They're gonna grab this one as they do. HUO able to secure that with the retribution. You guys said it earlier, James has to step up, and that's exactly what he's doing here.
He stepped up in a big way here in this game.
Super duper big. We did not even notice that he was actually man-fighting against Kelra, and that's the thing with marksman nowadays, and you can expect to see Paquito being one of the priorities from now on because he's able to just counter out all of these marksman picks. Beatrix gonna have a problem with Paquito. That's also true with 1-1, and Claude is not safe from this very strong glass cannon of a boxer.
He's almost full items too. Look at that. He is roaring. He's one of the top gold in NXPE.
Oh man, the Lord does fall now, able to crack open the base here just yet, so Smart Omega still showing it. Here comes the conceal play, looking for an angle here. They gotta be careful.
Miko.
Way of the dragon, right on Yelly Haze as he falls, blazing to it, but he survives. Kelra still alive as 3 fall for NXPE. The King finding another, give him the triple kill. Ryzen hunting down H2O, grabs that one, and it's a wipeout for Smart Omega, and they take game number 1.
The embodiment of Venom. We have Omega.
Punch literally and figuratively as we saw James with his heroics, but in the end, they have found the opening. Miko with a double K. Found the opening onto Yelly Haze, the most important hero in that match.
I mean, this is just a huge statement for both teams. I mean, even though Omega won that, you saw at least 3 moments where NXPE could have actually ran down on mid and took the game for themselves. It just so happens that Omega were also quick to the punch.
Yeah.
You know, and with that Lord that they secured there, you think they might be able to, you know, crack open the base a little bit. But it was actually smart Omega just to be like, hey, we're not going to let it happen. We're going to full-on defend. We're going to initiate with that conceal play. And the thing is, we saw the struggle of Miko trying to find the perfect way of the Dragons for the team. A lot of the times they were in the wrong place, man.
I agree.
But that's the thing. That last one there, when he found Yelly Hayes and he kicked him right into the team, you know that takes out a huge ultimate. And like we said, even I don't know how many base pushes earlier, but we're like, if that real-world manipulation is gone, man, your fighting power falls so far. And Miko, I mean, he did that for the team in that final fight there.
It doesn't matter how many ways of the dragon, ways of the dragon you miss. Doesn't matter how many kicks you miss. Just find the right one at the right timing, and you're gonna win the game for sure.
That's what I say for Franco.
Yep, that's very true.
Same with hooks, exactly.
Same with hooks, same with Natalia in there. Yeah, that's very
Same
true.
with them. I think you can apply it to a lot of people.
That's very true.
Anyway, we are gonna have to break this down because we have so many moments that this could have actually gone either way, and I would really love to see a lot of these replays, a lot of these stuff. So I think Wolf, you're gonna have your work cut out for this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty
sure. So good luck to you, right? First of all, before we do that, I think we have to count how many moments, how many times Omega actually could have had it as well, if not for Yelly Hayes' keeping it up.
Yeah.
If not for Yelly Hayes' timings, except for that, literally that last one.
It's funny because we were talking about how important his positioning will be. Like he has to use all of his veteran and all of his experience.
The genius,
all
right?
of his genius. And he actually did.
Yeah.
He managed to prolong the game long enough. He used his ultimate. He was a threat all the time. His positioning was great so that all of the kicks will be, undone. It's just that in the end, whoever runs out of breath first in this marathon of a game.
Like Nice earlier, I think the team fights was going so long, he almost ran out of breath there.
Yeah, I mean, they were quite long. I mean, those weren't even the Lord dances that we saw earlier.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway.
You know what? When it's Omega and NXPE playing, it's always back and forth. But unfortunately for NXPE, we hit the Omega timers. Welcome to the I Understand. My name is Midnight. And let's break down how Omega was able to maximize their mid-game power spike to transition this into a late-game win. Now, there are two things that we have to talk about here when it comes to the matchup between Omega and NXPE. NXPE drafted a pure damage lineup with the consideration of the sustain and mobility from the Rafaela to provide enough of leeway on the early game. But Omega, they had the early game rotations down to the wire. That is the second thing. The most important thing about this game is the difference of the battlefield. Omega was fighting for the control on the early game, not essentially for the late game, because that will inevitably come with the Claude. But with Omega's control on the early game, it was NXPE's turn to retaliate in the mid game, but it wasn't really allowed because it was the moment where Omega hit the power spike with the Claude. Now NXPE, they have some answers on their lineup. They did have damage, they did have team fight with the Eve, but the main problem, the main concern here is that Omega, when they want to fight, it's initiated on their own terms. NXPE EVOS, they have very good early game controlling heroes, but they didn't capitalize on that. Fact and Smart Omega, they were the first ones to make the movements, and would like to highlight here the importance of the itemization between these two teams. Smart Omega Kelra, with the completion of the DHS and the Golden Staff, it was the start of the late game factor against NXPE. And NXPE, if you think about how they fare up against the Claude, there was really no answer on their side. Even though Kelra didn't have a fantastic game on his Claude, he only had 1 kill as a kill record. But Smart Omega, they utilized the Claude in a way that whenever they're trying to take fights against NXPE, he was the looming threat. He was the inevitable end of NXPE. That's why we didn't really see a lot of team fight come out from NXPE, because they were scared. They were trying to look for the positioning of Smart Omega, as the heroes were really critical on their side. Now NXPE, the main problem of their lineup is that they don't have any frontline sustain. You might argue that Mycophobia as the Rafaela can be the frontline hero for NXPE, but it's a Rafaela. He needs to be grouping up with his teammates. He needs to be alongside James and H2 to provide sustainability and mobility, but they don't have that type of hero that can just move around the map, look for information, and repel Smart Omega. Didn't really help when NXPE was played the Karina as a mage rather than a tank Karina, because it just allowed Omega to have this fantastic momentum in the mid game where they had full control against NXPE. They ended up taking all the neutral objectives up until minute 12, although NXPE was able to snatch some momentum back with, again, them having an answer against the lineup of Omega, because they have raw damage coming out from H2 and James. Both the Karina and the Paquito made work of the squishy heroes on the side of Omega, but again, you're gonna be headed to a roadblock here. If you look at the side of Omega, there's two full tanks on their side. It's the Baxia and it's also the Masha of Omega, which allowed Omega to play the frontline game against NXPE. So after the initial base take of NXPE, they felt like, okay, we don't have any damage anymore, and that's when Omega rushed in and secured a team fight victory against NXPE. You can see clearly in this game that Omega had full control from early up until the late game. There was no point in the game where NXPE was able to make any moves that allowed them to get more resources versus Omega, which is critical. Because if you have map control, or if you have a lead and your lineup is able to capitalize on that, again, you're gonna control more resources versus your enemy, and that is what happened to Omega. When the DHS and the Golden Staff was finished, the Claude was playing with Smart Omega, and NXPE, again, having no answers against this type of lineup, they just waited. The main problem is that when you're waiting against Omega, you are inevitably gonna be fighting up against the late game power spike or the prowess of the lineup of Smart Omega. Now, the MVP, of course, in that game is Miko. This show allowed for so many pickoffs. This aggressive movement from the roamer of Smart Omega proved to be fatal enough against NXPE. The initial rotations towards the bottom lane that focused on to taking down or pressuring Donut on the gold lane allowed for Smart Omega to have many fantastic movements all around the map, and that also allowed Ryzen to have a very high-paced game wherein the Claude was just free farming. And again, once the DHS and Golden Staff came out, that was the go signal for Smart Omega to play really aggressive. Also love the usage of the flicker in this game. The amount of flickers that were really important for Miko. The times that he used it, it was at the most efficient way for him to be able to play this show in this game. And again, putting so much pressure on the lanes of NXPE, allowing Smart Omega to just really control the map in their favor, and NXPE, having no answer in the early game, had to concede the mid-game power spike. That was when we showed the graph earlier. The huge spike towards the gold lead on the side of Omega was what secured the victory here for Smart Omega. We're gonna look at the game highlights here real quick, but do take note that we are gonna be witnessing Omega take full control over NXP. Again, the initial rotations towards the bottom lane allowed for Ryzen to have these fantastic movements, and also controlling the jungle area of NXP, wherein H2 was not allowed to freely farm and put aggressive movements on the map because he was always in the front of Smart Omega. There was really no way for him to contest these types of heroes, especially if you are playing a Karina mage against a Baxia. You know, whenever you're near the Baxia, he will always have the leisure of kiting you around because he knows that you're not going to be able to deal so much damage to a point where you're sustainable enough to fight alongside the Baxia, because the Baxia will always have his teammates around him, and the Karina is not tanky enough to sustain that type of damage. That's why H2O was always playing near the backline, wherein the Eve is going to be found, and Omega capitalized on that fact. The moment that they group up for NXPE, the moment that they went back to the backside, that's where they initiate. But there was this moment for NXPE when they take control. When they were defending their base, Omega let loose for a bit, I would say, because it wasn't the cleanest of pushes that they have executed, but NXPE, they went in for the punish. And this is where you see the damage output of the Karina and the Paquito as well. And Miko, again, made that critical play, the jump on the backline, catching off heroes on the side of NXPE. But again, NXPE having no answer, they just have to concede that team fight. Smart Omega, they fully understand how their lineup works. They just need to close the gap against these heroes. Nobody will be able to fight them. It's raw mobility and sustain versus the raw damage of NXPE, which will naturally be a winning condition for Omega because they have the Claude. They have the damage to make the HPs of NXPE go pretty low to the point where they just want to run, but they cannot. Because again, Omega, they have the mobility on their side. They have the Baksha, they have the Masha with the added movement speed from his first skill, and also the Art of Thievery coming out from Claude, which makes him move faster and makes you move slower. So in theory, there was really no way for NXP to fight into the late game strength of Smart Omega, which allowed Omega to fully close up the game and win the late game battle. NXP, again, having a hard draft in this game, which is, I find it really hard for them to be able to play in this game. Should make adjustments on game number 2, which we'll see in a bit. Before that, we're gonna be throwing you back to our casters.
And there it is, ladies and gents, Midnight himself, really had a hard time, explaining us all through that, because it was such a back and forth game, right? It was he was really struggling to find a really big moment where one team really shone. A lot of these, obviously, Omega had a pretty good grasp of the game because they had a very good start, but you could see the effort of NXPE despite being behind, I think, in terms of they had a squid